which also sometimes ends up being an issue for me because I'm very, not controlling, but overbearing
Yeah.
sometimes
Yep.
with how I approach with my children and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, because I want to make sure that they're getting all the things that I don't think I did receive, which again, which is subjective, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um,
Did you
so
like, even as you frame it now, you it sounds like, well, let me not say what it sounds like. Was there ever a period that you resented not having those models, or for you was it always, it's on me, I got to figure it out?
oh, I still resent it.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
do every day.
Okay.
Every day, brother. I resent it. I mean, I resent it, but I'm the figure it out person too,
Yeah.
right? So, um, I try not to dwell in the woe is me for long, but I do resent it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. How did it a lot of women listen to this podcast as well, I guess, to gain perspective on how we think of maybe the absence of a father or father figure in some area of their life. How did that impact the relationship, how your relationship developed with your wife, right? Like, I'm pretty sure she probably had to have patience with some things as you kind of like were figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah, no, I mean, she still has to have patience
Yeah,
with
I
it,
mean,
right? It's challenging at times because again, I still hold stuff in and I have a hard time communicating some of my expectations and needs. Um, um,
I'm sorry. I'm
and-
smiling because that's how this podcast started. Like,
right,
my frustration with myself is holding my kids accountable to expectations I never communicated. And now I'm mad at
yep,
them because they're not doing the thing that I never taught them,
yep,
but that I knew at their age.
yep.
I'm sorry.
No, no,
Thank you.
that's me in a nutshell,
Mm.
right? Holding people, my wife, my kids. I mean, and to be honest with you, they're probably the biggest recipients of that.
Mhm.
Because honestly, everybody outside of that, I understand that. This is about to sound bad, but they're, with the exception of like my mom and my brother, but they're replaceable.
That was one of the words that I was like, what is he gonna say? They're expendable, or
Yeah, expendable or replaceable.
and it's a show to them, right?
Right.
It's not it's weird that we dump on the people that we trust and love the most,
Right.
that mean the most to us. I guess partially that's a sign of vulnerability with them,
Right.
but not being able to articulate it, it comes out all bad for me a
Yep.
lot of times.
Yep. That's me. That's me.
So what are some of your like immediate concerns with how it impacts your children? Because again, this is why this podcast is about holding me accountable. It's
Yeah.
about sharing information too, but it's like my son was coming to the age that I was when I didn't want nothing to do with my father.
Right.
And it wasn't because I had a bad father, it's just because I thought I knew more. I didn't like his rules and all that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that paralyzing fear that, okay, if I do this, do I push him away?
Right.
If I actually give him the information that he needs, how's he gonna feel about it? Like, I was in my head about a lot of that. And I'm not saying that's your story, but how does it like, what are you consciously aware of, and how you parent that you gotta be super I gotta be super mindful of this?
Let me tell you, my biggest fear is that I'm going to do irreparable damage to my children. So I try to, because I yell too much, like way too much. I'm a little bit overbearing sometimes. Going back to what I was saying about me being safe, trying not to make mistakes and stuff like that. Sometimes I don't give them enough chances with mistakes, especially given their age, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you, like, sometimes my daughter, she's just in her own world at times, and even when I'm yelling at her, most of the time she still doesn't care. But there's times where I yell at her and she's like, she takes it to heart.
Yeah.
Like my son, he, yelling at him is, I'm trying to stop it as much because I can see, because my son wants to, he just wants to hang out with me.
Wow.
He just wants to be around me, like, and he just wants to make sure I'm fine and stuff like that. So I don't want him to hold that burden.
Yeah.
Two, and I don't want him to again become resentful of it or resentful of me because of whatever.
So were you that kid? Did you want to hang out with your father?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I know we didn't. So
right. Because I'm wondering how it is. Because similar to me, like I didn't want to hang out with my dad, but my son now, he's like, Dad, you going to the studio? Dad, you doing this? Can you I see him trying to find more common interests with me than oftentimes I do with him. Because I think, he just wants to sit in his room and play his game. He's like, well, no, you never came and said, let's go bowling.
Right.
I would like to do that. How do you process that? That he always wants to be around you when maybe that wasn't the case. Like, is it weird for you?
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm like, hey, go sit down somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
But I spend a lot of time with my children.
Yeah.
I spend a ton of time. I make sure to do homework with them and read with them. My son's starting to get into basketball.
Gotcha.
Practicing with him again, which he adores, like us practicing together.
Yeah.
He likes playing video games, right? And he just like, I'm not even that good anymore, but he still just wants to play with me. You know what I mean? Same with my daughter. I mean, just spending time with her in general. Like tonight, gonna go out and hang out with some buddies. You, I got potentially.
Yeah, if I get my last one done, I'm gonna be out there
potentially. But I'm like, okay, well, she has her gymnastics class. I got to make sure to get back so I can see that. So I spend a lot of time with my kids. But again, sometimes I, when I'm into my head, right, I start, like get away from it. So.
Yeah, I think something I don't want to miss, I don't want the audience to miss is that be aware of the signs when your kids want to be around you, right? Because sometimes, like for me, I see it through such a lens of me not wanting to be that. I assume that he doesn't, or any of my children. Right. It's focused on my son because that's where, like I had daughters first, right? So I had to be softer, right? I can't put my hands on I said it before, and I'm saying it again. I don't want to demonstrate that physical adjustment is a way to get them to act right.
Right.
As a man. Right. Especially the first man that they trust. And then like, can they compartmentalize that? Oh, it was just my dad was supposed to do this. And any other man, is not. I never want to be that. And plus, I can look at my daughters and they'll cry. Like if they see the disappointment on my face, it's like, and then I really can't do anything. But my son, like I struggle with like tough, right? And I didn't come from projects. I didn't come from the hood. I put myself in some situations where, we do what you got to do. But how much street smarts do I need my son to have? We're not in the streets. Right. Like I'm not in the streets now. Like, but I want him to be aware and recognize because my pet peeve is that my kids walk around not aware of their environment. Yeah. Like, how do you not see what's going on? But you're not trained. And how do you get the experience without the experience, right? Right. So I struggle with that, but parents don't miss the signs that kids want to be around you, whether they're saying it, they're demonstrating it with their actions or just their looks. I think that's really important because I think that can crush a kid because if that happens unaddressed, it may happen way more frequently than you're aware of it. Right. But they're aware of it. Yeah. And that's that irreparable damage that you were referencing.